Hey guys, what's going on and welcome back to Tenerife, where we got a transfer special for you today. It's all the transfers going into the new season, hopefully getting that a little bit closer to being the best team in the world. Now, if you're watching through on the playlist or you watch the uploads as I upload them, you've not missed an episode. The Club World Championship episode was recorded. There was a big issue with it technically, and I'll explain more about that after the intro. The Club World Championship itself was won by Manchester City 5-1 in a final against Bayern Munich. The European contingent of this tournament, the 8 teams from Europe, were the top 7 teams in Europe and Arsenal. I can't explain it. They've not been higher than 4th because it's Arsenal. Ironically, still 4th. And that's literally their list of landmarks. The biggest news is the fact they've lost their owner, finally. McFly man, Danny Jones has taken over. Must be a different one. But they were Champions League runners-up. And I believe they were in the other semi-final in the season that followed that, which was the one that we won in its entirety. I believe they lost to Manchester City, who are our opponents there. And I think, if I remember rightly, it was the semi-final stage that we got our notification that we'd qualified for this Club World Championship. So if it was all the semi-finalists in that Champions League season, then that explains why Arsenal are here, because it was finalist and then semi-finalists for them. That might have been enough for them. That might have been enough. Still a bit weird. They actually got through their group, unlike Juventus, who lost out to the Brazilian side. Yep. Happened again. 7 through, 1 not. But realistically, you didn't really miss much with the Club World Championship because it suffers from exactly the same situation as the international tournaments did for me when I was England manager on last year's York save. The game treats all the players as if they are on holiday. So if you do literally anything other than rest, it really, really hampers their fitness levels. So after 3 games, at the end of the 90 minutes, my players were all on the lowest level of red. All of them, except the goalkeeper. It's a massive problem. It was in last year's game. It does it for the international tournaments as well as the Club World Championship. I'm not sure why that's not been fixed, and if I knew this was a problem still, I wouldn't have hyped it up. I do apologise. SI, sort this out, please. But transfer business, the only outbound player sold for money, there's been a fair few loans, including Mauro Icardi, who I couldn't shift. Couldn't shift him as an actual transfer. His wage demands were too high. Someone loaned him for about a third of his wages. I figured, solid, that's enough. Along with Molina and Maicon Douglas in terms of people that could have made it into the registered set of players. They've gone out on loan. Molina, non-EU. Maicon Douglas, I thought was non-EU. I loaned him out, realised he wasn't, but never mind. Could have just snuck in, but we do have another player in the position he plays, which is left-hand side of attack. I did think about shifting Zukic or Badarancourt. I offered them out. Nobody really wanted them, which is a bit annoying. But Hanus did go. Now, the right back situation is weird because a couple of years ago, I brought in 3 right backs in the same window. Hanus, Nederlaer, and Obregon. Obregon turned out to be a left back. Can't believe it took me that long to realise he was, and now he's being sold anyway. Nederlaer, not really certain if he is a right back or a centre back or a defensive midfielder. He can play all 3 of them quite well. He's quite utility. Nederlaer, probably the ultimate bench player. Hanus, not really a starting right back either. But we did use him as that last season. And I think he's got a little bit of a Tarek Lamptey about him, which in the game does tend to skew the star rating a little bit. Keep in mind, this player is 2.5 stars when I show you the replacements. Yes, plural. Because, yes, the physicals are great, but look at the rest of him. The rest of the attributes, the technicals and the mentals, very iffy, very average at best. 23 million up front, 33 potential. There's a per performance, which is why it's already registering as 24 million, because they've already given us another £1 million, basically. But these 2 appearances he's made so far for Gladbach. It's a sale I was happy to make, really, because his potential ability, not really sure how much more he had in him, is listed as a wonder kid. But when you've got quality players, when you've got world-class players like Ravella, like Valverde, as soon as you get them in, and the potential abilities on some of these younger players starts moving out of the possibly 5 stars, that's when you start to think, maybe we can do better there. And I think we have done better there. I'll start with the person I actually brought in to replace him directly, which was Cancelo. I don't think you actually do the accent thing with this Cancelo because he doesn't have an accent on the C. But Real Madrid transfer listed him, £19 million he cost us up front, and he's got a similar situation to Renan Lodi, where he's got 50 appearances. We've kept Renan Lodi, by the way. That was a whole saga. The too long didn't read of that is £5 million for the 50 appearances for Renan Lodi is the best deal we could figure during this. Paying the extra £5 million is the best we could do. Nobody wanted him for enough money that we could have got a cheaper replacement that was as good. That's the short story there at left back. The left backs as it was, right back. Cancelo was the immediate obvious choice because there was another right back I wanted. He wouldn't talk to me because he was part of an international tournament. Then they were very reluctant to let go of him, the club he was at. Eventually we got him. But Cancelo was the immediate replacement for Hanus. He's 31. He's 3 stars. Half a star more. And you look at the attributes, I can't work out how that's half a star more. Cancelo is far more well-rounded. Obviously, playing a step further back, but pacey enough, physicals are good enough, well-rounded on the technicals, well-rounded on the mentals. He's agreed to be a squad player, and he will be my backup. £90,000 a week, same as Icardi, actually. But Icardi, here on an important player contract because he was at the time we signed him. This is the player that I had the biggest saga with. Maximiliano Bermudez. Plays for Mexico, was in the Gold Cup. Wouldn't talk to me until that was over, and then the club was very reluctant to let him go, understandably. 2.5 stars, potential ability 5, perhaps. The guaranteed 4, 5, perhaps. This is what I'm talking about. Now you've got those players to mark these new gens up against. This is what we're looking for. He's non-EU. He's filling the third non-EU spot vacated by Obregon a while ago. And you can see why. His physicals, just shy of being great. Mentals, sensational, really. Off the ball, the only iffy part of that. 20 determination, 17 work rate, 17 decisions. Slightly low aggression as well for a defender. Would possibly like that to be a bit higher. And then the technicals, already better than Hanus in every respect, except for crossing, which we do need to work on. Other than that, perfect. He's right-footed. Did double-check that before I signed him. He's not another wrong side of the picture. He is 5'7", so he is a definite right-back as well. Because his marking is actually quite up to scratch for if he was to be trained centrally. But he is definitely a right-back. Cost me 25 million. He is worth slightly less than that, so I think we got slightly mugged off on the deal, but I'll take it. One of those ones where they try to force you into ridiculous amounts of money first and foremost, and you get them down to something that seems vaguely sensible. He's agreed to be a squad player. He will be the first choice. 15 caps for Mexico already. He's 19. Genuinely forgot to mention Mariano. This is the person I got on free at the end of the year to be a squad backup. Here was the replacement for the broken Icardi. Realistically, he's one of the best 2.5-star players I've ever seen. He's very well-rounded for a 2.5-star player. Pressing forward is his primary role, which is perfect for our formation. 60 grand a week, free agent, £80 million he's worth. Take it. But I thought we could do an improvement. I don't know why he's gone down in star rating since we signed him. His acceleration is on the little low side, but Maxi Gomez is an interesting one because we nearly bought him in January for about 60 million. It was between him and Dusan Vlahovic, who's gone to Real Madrid actually for 67 million, oddly enough, or something like that. Got to the end of the year, and Maxi Gomez was available for about half the price they wanted in January. I don't know what happened, but £27 million he's cost us up front, originally of Defensor Sporting, who we now has an affiliate, so that's a nice little link, and I think he'll score goals for us. He will be the leader. Bruno Alves, don't forget, still 18. He's been in the squad, I feels like, for his entire life so far. But Bruno Alves, still 18, maybe 19, maybe he's had his birthday by now. But yeah, Uruguayan link is there. Always nice to have that. Valverde, of course, behind him. And then the big one. If you'd had the Club World Championship episode, I sort of teased this one because I mentioned at the time it happened. Ansu Fati was bought by Manchester United for £123 million. I said I was eyeing the person he would be usurping in the Man United squad, who was available for about half the price. In the end, we paid 63 million up front. There's more if he plays, of course, but 63 million pounds for Jack Grealish as he enters his prime, as he's in his prime at 29. In a weird moment where Football Manager correlates to real life situations almost, I sorted this out before the Grealish news broke, which was quite funny as I was doing this, but we know who Jack Grealish is. We know how good he is. He's very well-rounded in the game as well. He's very well-rounded without being like super sensational anywhere. He's just incredibly good across the board. There's no super high attributes, but they're all just very good. A lot of 15s, a few 16s and a 17 there in flair, of course. And as you say, just sneaking into the prime years of Jack Grealish. We'll have him for that time. I think it's a good deal. There were 4 positions I thought that could be upgraded on. Striker, left wing, right back, left back. I'm fine with Lodi for the time being. If Tenorio grows into the starter there, that's even better. But for the time being, this year's strikers will be Gomez, Alves, and Mariano. We'll use Angso Mayorga in the B team. Nedele, of course, is still an interesting one. The fact he's here on a fringe contract, though, is part of why I kept him around for the time being. He's not going to get mad if he doesn't play games. But he's in the similar boat to Hanus in the fact that his potential ability, not the maximum, but he's just got a little bit more utility than Hanus. Can play central, he can play in a Segundo Volante role, I think. Relatively okay, 2 stars, but not supremely well there. He's just lacking the pace. Of course, the advantage of Cancelo is the fact he can cover left back if necessary, and that's what he's going to have to do at the moment because Tenorio is injured. We do have a game today. It's against Real Madrid. I love it when it lines up like this. Christensen will be in goal. He's back. He's not injured again before a key game. Lodi at left back. Harwood, Picard will stay in centre back. They are still sensational, realistically. Harwood, still potential to grow into, perhaps, but already 3.5-star ball playing defender. 6'1". I can't remember if he's actually got slightly taller. I can't remember if he was 6 foot last time I saw him. Picard, no such issues. 6'4". Again, 3.5-star ball playing defender. The fact that Picard was slumming it in the second tier of France for so long is even more baffling now. Lodi remains left back. We've talked about that issue. Valverde and Ravella, don't really need to go into them because they're not new gens. You know how good they are. Faisal remains 3.5 stars in the role that we play him in. He just gets better every time I look at him, quite frankly. Still fairly professional as well. Merckx, of course, the best player last year on one side, Grealish on the other, and a 2-star Bruno. In fact, is Maxi Gomez good enough to really start this? He's short on fitness is the problem. Bruno Alves up front, I don't know why he's regarded so poorly as a pressing forward in particular. The low aggression, I think that lets him down there. But the fact of the matter is, he has 3 goals and 2 starts so far. In fact, I should briefly mention, we played 2 games, 3-1, 2-1. Alves with 3 of the goals, Harwood and Faisal with goals against Levante. Oh, and in case you cared, the Friendly Cup, we lost to Arsenal. I made on a match with America just to try and raise our profile in Mexico to get that right back. Should have played against his team thinking about it. But of course, with the arrival of Jack Grealish here, we have joined that trend of Spanish clubs acquiring English players. Up against Tammy Abraham today? No, I think he went to Atletico. I think it's Dwight McNeil that went to Real Madrid. For the lineup, as I said, Christensen, Lodi, Harwood, Picard, Bermudez, Ravella, Valverde, Faisal, Grealish, Merckx, and Alves will keep his spot up front because he is scoring. I don't really see any reason to take that off him. Yes, I can see it actually on the opposite instructions. Dwight McNeil was on the opposite instructions, along with Buendia, who I think they've acquired this summer. Isaac, of course, was already there. Guimaraes was already there as well, which I think is this Rodriguez Mora. They've acquired Garcia, who went to Dortmund, I believe, when his contract ran up with Manchester City in this save, rather than Barcelona as he has in real life. As I said, they did acquire Vlahovic for a bench role, apparently. Musa Barrow is a recent acquisition for them. To boot, hang on, are they playing Casemiro in central defence over Varane? That's Dieter Flick. Not sure what's going on there, buddy. Varane, of course, off to Man United, probably. I'll be very fascinated to see how that will go. It's going to be interesting having someone realistically in that elite group of defenders, like Van Dijk, elsewhere in the Premier League. You can make arguments for players like John Stones and Ruben Dias off the basis of last season. But they've got 1 or 2 more years for players like that to be consistently performing at the top level before they can be regarded as that elite level. Particularly John Stones, of course, who's fluctuated up and down in terms of performances over the years. But we've got a highlight here. Brennan Alvarez gathers the ball. There's space out wide on the left if we can find him. It's being tackled to Merckx by Ferland Mendy. Merckx kicks against Mendy. That was insane psychic ability from Mendy there to do a tackle. Less psychic ability there to commit a penalty. But there's absolutely no doubt that Varane is on the same level as players like Van Dijk, consistently at the top. Penalty is awarded, and exactly what Manchester United needed. If that transfer goes through, it will certainly change my perspective on the Premier League. Faisal scores the penalty. Faisal was on the penalty. I'll have a look into penalty takers after this, but it doesn't surprise me that Faisal was the taker. Well buried, though. We'll give him that. Actually, in regards to Man United, there were rumours of Pogba leaving. I don't know if anything's happened on that front yet, but one spot they probably do need to sort out now is goalkeeper. If they don't think De Gea is first choice, I don't think Henderson realistically should be first choice. He's a great goalkeeper, but you can't put him in the same category as the other top 6 as goalkeepers. And I do mean the other top 6 as goalkeepers. And by top 6, I mean Leicester, not Arsenal. Dan is very good as well, though. Heck, I take Dubravka over Henderson. I think Henderson realistically needed another season at a mid-table side at worst. At best, sorry. Another season of Sheffield United probably would have kept Sheffield United up. Bruno Alves goes close again. Actually, with Dubravka injured again for Newcastle at the start of the season, I wouldn't mind us making a move for a decent goalkeeper. Dollar did very, very well in the absence of Dubravka last year, but can he do it again? I don't know. We'll find out, I suppose. Merckx does the rebound against his Belgian teammate, Thibaut Courtois. You'll love to see it. It's 2-0 Tenerife. We are actually predicted top of the table, by the way. On the season preview, for the first time, Tenerife are the favourites. And it's the first time as well we've had people in the top goal scorer prediction list as well. Both Merckx and Gomez were on it. It's the first time we've had that. Buendia not having a particularly good game. Obviously, with two defensive midfielders, attacking midfielders don't tend to have a nice time against us. Jack Grealish not doing particularly well for us either. Neither is Maximiliano. Neither is Bermudez. Of course, there's no language barrier there with the Mexican, but finding it a little bit difficult in his opening game. He's also booked as well, which you can't see on the list. There's no Ferland Mendy's on a 6.0, but that's because he gave away the penalty, of course. Just realised I put on the opposition list for a reason in a previous game. There's their formation. Oh, Mox is injured, apparently. Great. We'll get him off then. Kayardo, and we'll get Grealish off. No, we'll keep Grealish on for a bit, I think. We've still got a little bit of time in this game. Of course, Cancelo playing against his former team here. Real Madrid, the team that we nicked him from. Kayardo, former Barcelona man, doing it against Real Madrid yet again. Fairly certain he scored when we had all those players on international duty last time we played them. But Kayardo just gathers the ball here. Ferland Mendy, having another mare, just stands off him. Kayardo just gets the ball under control, puts it on his left, smashes it in. And now Varane is on. Now, the fascinating thing about Real Madrid is I only looked at their right backs because they went in for another right back, and it wasn't Militao who they're playing there. So I don't know what they're doing. I'll just double check their bench again. Nope, pretty certain the player they bought a right back isn't on the bench either. Looking at it, they don't appear to have got him. What's even more baffling is they did buy a right back, but they were still looking at another right back. Castagna, that's it. They were in for Castagna. It was the only reason why I found out that Cancelo was on the transfer list, because I figured, well, they're buying a right back. They might be trying to get rid of one. Might be able to get a bargain here. And we did. Militao going close, the person they're playing a right back. But despite the fact they've already bought one and we're in a market for a second, they're playing Eder Militao there. Vlahovic, off the bench, nearly scores. Okay, now we take Grealish off with like 3 seconds to go. I'll be intrigued to see how Valencia do without Maxi Gomez, by the way. Now that we've taken him off them, they do have a wonder kid to fill in. 3-0, the most convincing win of the three so far, against Real Madrid. It's 3 from 3 for us, but it's 3 from 3 from Sociedad Barcelona and Atleti as well. Top 5 looking a little bit more sensible, although we're only 3 games in, of course. Oh, for fans of Deportivo La Coruña in general, even passive fans, they did finally get promoted in-game to the top division, which means I can finally start loaning players to them again. I like to help out Coruña just because, well, whilst they were in the same division as my B team, couldn't loan players. The Champions League group involves Liverpool, Midtjylland and Young Boys, because of course it does. I genuinely might just play all the way through to the second Liverpool game, because in all likelihood, we should have 9 points from these 3 games at the barest minimum. We play the home Liverpool game first. So we should, in theory, be probably in a position to progress from that Liverpool game. But that's when I'll bring you back. We'll do that and either Villarreal or the holiday destination rivalry with Mallorca. One of the two. I'll bring you back for those 2 games, as I say. What do you think of the transfers? It's a relatively quiet transfer window in terms of just the pure outgoings and incomings for the club and the first team. So many loan offers for fringe players and young players. So many attempts to steal my youth players as well. My director of football has been very busy just offering out contracts left, right and centre to stop that from happening. I did lose 2 in the melee, but I'll see you very soon for that Liverpool game. You just missed one in the Club World Championship. Hopefully, it goes a little bit better this time around. Until then, ta-ra.